Welcome to the Manga Forge. This is the first episode in a new series where I review manga courses to see if they're actually worth your money. Today, we're looking at How to Draw Anime and Manga, the Ultimate Guide. Bold title. Let's see if the Ultimate Guide really only costs $19. The course is by Ed Foychuk. He's a professional illustrator, published both independently and professionally. His most known work is a comic called Captain Korea from 2012. It's not a manga, but let's see if his experience can transfer over to manga. The course begins with a quick history of manga. I skipped it. Not because it's not important, but because I'm more interested in learning to make manga than learn about its history. So then we get into materials. Ed splits mangakas into two categories, traditional and digital. He recommends beginners start with traditional tools, pencil and paper, since tablets and styluses can cost a few $100s, if not more. He recommends beginners use a regular HB pencil. It's basic and affordable, and it's what most people already have. So then we get into some warm-ups. These were surprisingly helpful. He teaches exercises like drawing dots on the page and connecting them with clean, confident lines. Another one is repeatedly drawing circles over and over each other to build line control. It's simple stuff, but it's pretty effective. Now the good stuff. The lesson kicks off with drawing a stick figure. Yes, really. Ed draws a stick figure and introduces us to something called articulation points. This is basically just a fancy way of saying where joints bend. A basic stick figure has 4. But the human body has many more. He overlays an advanced stick figure on top of a photo reference to show this. He then breaks down adult human proportions using the classic 8 heads tall method. It's standard figure drawing 101. It's useful, though it's not specific to manga. This next section is labeled anime proportions, but in reality, it's more about male versus female body differences than anything manga specific. We're told that women have wider hips, smaller rib cages, and lower knees, and to increase the size of the men's and women's head to make them a little bit more stylized looking. Calling this anime proportions feels like a little bit of a stretch, but still he recommends a good practice method, drawing the advanced stick figure over dynamic poses to get more used to the proportions of it. This part is really good. Next is adding muscle. As someone who studied anatomy myself, I found this section a little bit confusing. If I was confused having studied anatomy before, I feel like beginners watching this lesson would be completely overwhelmed. I don't want to dismiss his lesson entirely, but it was a bit too confusing for me, so I'll skip this part and move on to the next one. Ed lines up different body types and draws advanced stick figures underneath to show structural differences. Then he builds the forms over top. It's useful, especially if you're learning to break bodies into simple shapes. I would definitely use this as a practice method. Next up is drawing heads. Here's where things start to unravel. This section only covers 2 angles of the head, front and side. That's not nearly enough for a guide claiming to be ultimate. Worse, the example drawing is this. Not trying to be mean, but if you're teaching others, the demonstration should be strong. I won't even share tips from this section because honestly, I think it might set you back. This next one is expressions. The photo I'm showing on screen right now is a free resource available on animeoutline.com. While editing, I noticed that Ed's expression sheet looks very similar to this one. The hair and face are really similar, and the first 3 expressions are the same. I'm not saying he copied, but probably referenced this sheet for his course. If he did, he should have credited them because the original is also just a better resource for these expressions. It could just be parallel thinking though, but I thought I should mention the similarities. Next up is eyes. This section probably could have been condensed to about 2 minutes. Instead, this is a 24-minute video. To his credit, Ed starts by explaining the 3D structure of the eyeball, which many beginners overlook. I'll mention here that the iris narrows as it turns and how the pupil isn't always in the center. I'll link a model in the description that shows this. For the actual eye shape, I would just use references from anime character sheets. Clothing. I couldn't really find any tips in this lesson. It felt more like Ed just drawing clothes over figures. Here's my alternative. Take reference photos of yourself wearing similar clothes and a similar pose, and observe where folds form, and then simplify them for more of the anime aesthetic. This is what I do, and it'll help a lot more. Next up is using figures for reference. This is a strong lesson. It suggests using action figures to pose characters. I do the same, but digitally, using the app Easy Pose, which has anime style models and it's free. Adding action. It touches on important concepts like the line of action, composition, speed lines, and text effects. Next up is another really good tip, which is silhouettes, one of the most important lessons in this course. Ed explains how a good character silhouette should be instantly recognizable, visually clear, and reflective of the character's personality. I took a shot at it here with this character. Hopefully I did a good enough job here, but you can tell he's a little bit recognizable with the 3 strands of hair sticking out and also the 2 points at the top for his cloak and the 2 points at the bottom. So visually, if you just saw his silhouette, you would know who it is. Next up is backgrounds and environments. It covers 1 point perspective, then moves on to basic background drawing. For manga, where speed and efficiency matter, this advice falls short. Most mangaka use photo references or 3D models to save time, not fully rendered perspective drawings like what he teaches here. Next up is understanding lighting. He starts this section by referencing how we learned tonal values, but that was never brought up before this point in the course, so maybe he left something out? I'm not sure. For this demonstration, I found his drawing a little bit confusing, so as an alternative, I would recommend watching the Proco video that I have linked in the description. This is actually the video that taught me values, lighting, and stuff like that. Next up is shading muscles. This is a 40-minute lesson where Ed applies how to use the understanding of lighting to shade muscles. Digital coloring. This was a little bit of a surprise because when making manga, it's usually black, white, hatching, and screen tone. Not a lot of coloring unless you're doing a manga cover. So I thought maybe this lesson would have something to do with, making a manga cover or something. But no, it's just regular coloring and it's fine and all, but unfortunately, I think there might be better alternatives for free on YouTube. This is just an example of what he was doing. You can make your own decisions. Next up is a section on Clip Studio Paint. Now this is interesting. We'll use Clip Studio's building assets. They're fast, customizable, and can be edited to look like manga. He also shows us how you can use 3D character models in Clip Studio, how to widen their back, adjust the head size, and much more. Honestly, this blew my mind. I had no idea you could customize models this much in Clip Studio Paint. This might have actually convinced me to switch my go-to modeling software from Easy Pose to Clip Studio. We'll see. Nearing the end here, Ed tackles animation in Clip Studio. This course was advertised as manga creation, not animation though, so I would have preferred some more helpful information on creating manga rather than this random animation section. Alright, so we have reached the end. This is where I will go over my final verdict for this course to see if it's worth your money and worth you going through the whole thing. Since this is the first video in my manga course reviewing series, I'll let you know what I'm ranking these on so you can kind of understand my thought process for the final rating here. Here are the 5 categories that I will be ranking this one on, all out of 5. First up is clarity and presentation. Is the material easy to understand? Are the lessons well structured and visually clean? Does the instructor communicate clearly? That's the first one. Second is depth and usefulness. How much meaningful information is provided? Does it go beyond surface level tips? And is the course actually helping you improve your manga creation? Third is art and visual demonstration. Are the visual examples high quality and relevant? Do the drawings or visuals help explain the lessons effectively? Is the instructor demonstrating in real time or just talking? And number 4 is instructor skill and credibility. Is the instructor experienced or qualified? Do they show a solid understanding of manga creation? Have they made or worked on manga themselves? And lastly in these categories is value for time and money. Is the price fair for what's delivered? Do you walk away with new skills or insights? And is it a good investment of your time? Having said all that, I'll show you my final rating. Final score is 2 out of 5. Now let me explain why. There are some useful tips and a few really solid sections, but this course falls way short of its title. This course should have been called How to Draw Characters for Beginners, not The Ultimate Guide to Manga. If you're serious about learning manga, I would recommend looking elsewhere. Alright, well, I hope you learned something regardless. Have a good one, and if you liked it, let me know. See ya!